Coming up today, reaching out to the National Assembly in a bid to cool the influence peddling crisis, President Park Geun-hye says she will accept whoever Parliament chooses for the next Prime Minister. Prosecutors raid Samsung Electronics amid allegations the company provided cash to the daughter of President Park's close friend at the centre of the scandal. First, this time tomorrow, we should know the next president of the United States. National polls mostly show Hillary Clinton ahead, but some of the key battleground states are too close to call. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Tuesday, the 8th of November. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon. President Park Geun-hye has given Parliament the option to propose their own candidate for Prime Minister. In a rare visit to the National Assembly for talks with the Assembly Speaker, President Park said she will accept the lawmakers' recommendation and govern the nation with their choice for Prime Minister. The President has been seeking lawmakers' understanding of her efforts to handle the abuse of power scandal sparked by her longtime confidant. For more, we are going to connect to our Presidential Office correspondent Song Ji-sun at Cheongwa-dae. So, Ji-sun, what were the President's goals before heading to Yeouido this morning?
Mark, President Park Geun-hye has accepted the opposition party's call to withdraw her nomination of Prime Minister Kim Byung-jun. Meeting with National Assembly Speaker Chung Se-kyun, she says she will accept their call and give governing authority to new Prime Minister nominee recommended by the Parliament.
대통령으로서 자의 책임을 다하고 국정을 정상화시키는 것이 가장 큰 책무라고 생각해서 오늘 이렇게 의장님이 만나뵈러 왔습니다. 고견을 바랍니다. 국회에서 여야 합의로 총리의 좋은 분을 추천해 주신다면 그분을 총리로 임명해서 실질적으로 내각을 생활을 나갈 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
Now, their meeting only lasted about 10 to 13 minutes, but that was enough for the President to express her intent to fully accept lawmakers' demands in order for state affairs to carry on. Assembly Speaker Chung said that the Parliament will work together in a bipartisan manner to find a qualified person to fill the role of Prime Minister, while President Park pledged the new Prime Minister will be granted and guaranteed full authority over domestic affairs. The two are also on the same page in recognizing that the nation is facing a serious crisis at the moment, with President Park calling on lawmakers to help tackle the economic challenges facing the nation, and both of them making note of the need to focus on improving people's livelihoods. President Park had been seeking to arrange a meeting with political party leaders, which did not happen today, as opposition party leaders refused to meet with her until she agreed to withdraw her nomination of Kim Byung-jun. The presidential office said anything can be discussed once the meeting takes place, and that the top office is taking the current situation very seriously and is also willing to listen to the public and hear voices from diverse sectors of society. Now the political parties have a lot to do now, from selecting a new candidate for the Prime Minister to discussing to what extent the new Prime Minister will take governing power away from President Park. Mark?
Thank you, Ji-sun, for that report there. Now, we are going to stay at the National Assembly. As we've just been hearing from Ji-sun, President Park Geun-hye and the Assembly Speaker did hold talks this morning on ways to try and stabilise affairs of state amid the abuse of power scandal that was sparked by the President's longtime confidant. However, as we heard as well, talks between the President and the opposition party leaders did not take place. For more, we connect to our Ji Myung-gil at the National Assembly. So, Myung-gil, walk us through what happened with these two meetings.
Mark, rival parties showed mixed reactions to the two-way meeting. The ruling Sanctions party said the president did her best to communicate with Parliament, while the opposition bloc said it was a mere political show for 10 minutes. Assembly Speaker and floor leaders of the three main political parties plan to meet this afternoon. In fact, even though President Park had hopes of meeting with opposition party leaders, they refused, saying she must first withdraw her pick for prime minister. The main opposition Democratic Party of Korea said it was time for the president to make a big decision, implying that she should resign. They said it was time for the president to face reality and give her full authority over state affairs to the prime minister in a show of respect to the Korean people. The minor opposition People's Party echoed that and said that direct talks with the president could only take place if she first withdraws her choice for prime minister and withdraws herself from the ruling Saenuri Party. Meanwhile, the ruling Saenuri Party's internal feud continues to intensify as the party leadership refuses to bow to calls from the non-pro-back faction to resign. Mark?
Well, thank you as always, Myung-gil, for that report, and do keep us updated throughout the day. Now, the prosecution's investigation into this scandal is starting to pick up a real head of steam now. They raided the offices of the nation's biggest tech firm, Samsung Electronics, earlier today. Kim Hae-sung has the details.
Prosecutors raided the Seoul headquarters of Samsung Electronics Tuesday as part of their probe into the Choi Soon-sil scandal. It's alleged Samsung may have given more than $3 million in 2015 to a German company, WIT Exports, owned by Choi and her daughter. Prosecutors say Choi used a third of the money to buy a horse for her daughter Chung Yu-ra, who was previously a member of the South Korean national equestrian team. Choi Soon-sil has been charged with abuse of power and fraud by using her close ties with President Park to force Korean conglomerates to donate money to two foundations, Miru and K-Sports. Samsung is known to have donated over $17 million, the most among 53 companies that together gave around $70 million. In addition, state prosecutors are looking into whether Cha Eun-taek, a music video producer who had close ties to Choi, meddled in state-led cultural projects. The prosecution said Tuesday that it questioned a key person, only identified by his family name Kim, late last week about whether Cha engaged in deciding what company would be in charge of a national brand project called Creative Korea. Cha is deemed a key suspect in the scandal, but he's currently known to be in China. Prosecutors have been accelerating their probe to search for new evidence into the activities of Choi Soon-sil and former top aides to President Park. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Now, after months and months of campaigning, the end is almost in sight. Millions of American voters will be heading to the polls on Tuesday to select their 45th president. The latest polls do show the race is tight, with Hillary Clinton slightly ahead of Donald Trump in national polls. Kim Mo-kyun with the details.
Polls have tightened over the past few weeks, narrowing the gap between the Democrat and Republican presidential nominees. But as FBI Director James Comey announced on Sunday that agents found no sign of criminality in the set of newly discovered emails, public sentiment has leaned slightly towards Hillary Clinton. The latest polls show Clinton got a mild bounce from the FBI announcement as her average lead over Donald Trump rose from 1.6 to 2.5% in national polls. A Fox News poll shows Clinton leading Trump by 4 points nationally. She also has a 4-point lead in the ABC Washington Post poll and the CBS News poll, which were all released on Monday. Following the FBI's announcement, global equity markets and the U.S. dollar surged. The Wall Street Journal Dollar Index, which measures the dollar against a basket of 16 currencies, was up 0.6%, with the dollar up 1.4% against the Japanese yen. The Mexican peso jumped roughly 2% against the dollar. Regardless of the result, this year's presidential election will go down in history. If Clinton wins, she'll be the first female U.S. president in history, and if Trump wins, his America First policy is expected to bring about big changes to the rest of the world. The winner will be the candidate to secure the 270 majority of the 538 votes in the Electoral College. Polls are set to close at around 8 p.m. on Tuesday local time, and the results are expected to be out by Wednesday morning. The U.S. Congress is scheduled to certify the electoral result on January 5th, and the new president and vice president will be inaugurated in Washington on January 20th. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
So it is down to the wire between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in the race for the White House. But what will the result mean for Korea? Hwang Ho-jun takes a look.
The new tenant of the White House will have a seismic impact on a global scale. Both candidates, though to differing degrees, have campaigned on trade protectionism. Trump is critical of existing trade agreements, including the Korea-US FTA, claiming it cost the U.S. 100,000 jobs. Clinton has never attacked the Korea-US FTA per se, but has made protectionist overtures, becoming over the course of her campaign an opponent of the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. When it comes to North Korea, the difference is much starker. Donald Trump has claimed on numerous occasions that countries are not paying their fair share for defense and even raised the prospect of pulling out U.S. troops from South Korea. Clinton, on the other hand, stresses the importance of cooperation between the U.S. and its allies and has proposed toughening sanctions against North Korea to force it to abandon its nuclear program. Separate from what's been said in the campaign, experts say it would be easier to project the direction of policy that Clinton would take.
We know something about Hillary Clinton. We know nothing about Donald Trump, and all the risk and the worry about a potential Trump administration has to do with the fact that we have very little information about what to expect should he become the president of the United States.
However, experts also argue that it's crucial for Seoul to be proactive in diplomatic relations with the next U.S. administration either way.
Frankly, whether Trump or Clinton becomes the next US president, the situation in the Korean Peninsula won't be their top priority when coming up with or implementing policies. It's important for Seoul to come up with a plan to solve the problems and then ask for the US's cooperation.
With less than a day left until the U.S. chooses its next president, Seoul has a lot of preparing to do as well. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, we don't know at this point, but if Hillary Clinton does become the next president of the United States, she will impose stronger sanctions on North Korea and she would not let the regime obtain a deliverable nuclear weapons capability. This is according to one of Clinton's top foreign policy advisors, Laura Rosenberger, who made the remarks in a recent interview with Voice of America, saying that sanctions on the regime would be intensified to cause, quote, real pain. Rosenberger said Clinton believes the U.S. needs to work with its allies to increase the pressure on North Korea so that Pyongyang has no option but to halt its nuclear program. She said that up to now, sanctions have not been applied to the degree that has inflicted pain on Pyongyang. She also said Clinton would work with China to ratchet up the pressure on the North and stress the importance of the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to South Korea, which Beijing is strongly opposed to. And the U.S. Department of Defense has reiterated its intent to deploy the controversial THAAD missile defense system on the Korean Peninsula as soon as possible. Speaking at a press briefing at the Pentagon on Monday local time, the department spokesman Peter Cook said they are working closely with South Korea on the issue for a quick deployment. He referenced last week's announcement by the commander of U.S. Forces Korea that THAAD, which is short for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, will be in place within 8 to 10 months. The defense system aimed at protecting against threats from North Korea was given the green light by Seoul and Washington in July, despite those objections not only from China but also from Russia. South Korea's central bank is gearing up to prepare for any kind of financial turbulence that could result from the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol is set to lead a meeting on the current financial conditions this afternoon after returning to Korea a day earlier than planned from a trip to Switzerland to attend bi-monthly meetings of the Bank for International Settlements. He said he cut his trip short to prepare for the election results. The central bank is expected to focus on drawing up contingency plans for after the U.S. election. Now, financially troubled Hanjin Shipping has almost completed removing all cargo from its vessels. The Korean government has vowed to cooperate with port authorities around the world to finish unloading all remaining ships in a timely manner. Kim Min-ji with the details.
Hanjin Shipping has almost completed the unloading of cargo on its vessels. According to the Finance Ministry, 94 out of the company's 97 container ships had completed unloading as of Monday. That represents 378,000 of 396,000 20-foot equivalent units or TEUs of shipping deals. Of the 3 vessels that still need to be unloaded, 2 are currently seized in Shanghai and Canada. With that, a total of 5 of Hanjin ships are still being held for failing to meet unpaid service fees. The Korean government has vowed to step up cooperation with port authorities around the world so the remaining cargo can smoothly be delivered to consignors. Some 770 crew members are still on board various ships as a result, and currently food and other daily necessities are being supplied to them. Hanjin Shipping slid into court receivership in late August amid an industry-wide slump due to falling freight rates from ship oversupply and a slowdown in the global economy. The company had a debt of roughly $5.5 billion as of the end of June. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, around a third of Korea's major exporters suffered losses in the third quarter. An institute under the Export-Import Bank of Korea says 30.5% of the firms posted losses in Q3 compared to the previous 3-month period. The figure is more than 7.5 percentage points higher than the figure posted in the second quarter. Adding to the gloom, only 12% of the exporters surveyed said they fared better in the third quarter than they did in the second. Now, the companies blamed their losses mostly on an overall decrease in demand, followed by the fluctuating exchange rate, a drop in price competitiveness, and increased competition. Looking ahead, the institute found that 35% of the exporters expect profits to drop in the next quarter. The nationwide discount event Korea Sale Festa, promoted by the Korean government, has given a much-needed boost to private spending. The Trade Ministry says the event that went on for slightly over a month, starting in late September, is estimated to have pushed up the country's private spending by more than 1/4 percentage point for the fourth quarter, and this is expected to raise Korea's overall GDP by 0.13 percentage points. The estimated rise comes on the back of an increased number of foreign tourists and robust sales by local retailers during the sales event. Sales of the firms that took part shot up over 10% on year, while roughly 120,000 more foreigners visited Korea. Now, just a quick note on the weather here in Korea before we go. The first cold wave advisories of the season have been issued for Seoul and northern Gyeonggi-do province, and this cold snap is forecast to continue through tomorrow, so keep a jacket handy. That's all we have for now, though, and wherever you're watching us, do have a great rest of the day. We'll have more news for you at 2 p.m. Korea time. That's in a little under 2 hours from now. Until then, goodbye.